Sharks, what's going on? This is a very special episode on the channel here. I'm very excited. I've never done this before. Obviously, never had another person on the videos with me here. But for as long as I've been on Top Shot, I've been seeking out a lot of new voices. I've been learning a lot of new things. And there have been a lot of people who have taught me something and who I know as much as me, and in a lot of cases more. So I've been blessed in a lot of ways to be in this community, and I've been addicted, as a lot of you can tell by now. But I decided to sort of open it up, and I thought, hey, what if we had some guests on here who can share their experiences, just talk about where they're at, thinking about, the larger picture, the minute details, all the things we obsess over. I was like, what if I had a guest on every once in a while? And I think we're going to do just that. So our very first special guest here on Top Shot Shark is someone you may be very well familiar with. He's got more followers than me. He's got more whatevers. And, he is the host of the curator, the host.
Well, yeah, like co-host with Sam on Boards to Buckets, but yeah.
Co-host of Boards to Buckets. You know him. You probably like what he has to say. I remember the first time we, interacted was the Twitter Spaces right after the Game Recognized Game Elite pack drop, and we were all kind of huffing and puffing, and I think for good reason, because that was very thoroughly botched, and I was just like, I'm just waiting for some sort of resolution, and I popped in there figuring somebody had some more alpha that I didn't have, and you were going on, and Weisberg was going on, and all these people who usually pop on, and I can't necessarily always pop on to the spaces. It's not always convenient for me, but I saw it and I was like, I should maybe give this a chance more often. So Boards to Buckets is the place you want to go. Go on Twitter, check out the spaces, and everything they do there is great. And we have the co-host here, Mr. @DreamShake_R. Dream, how you doing?
Doing well, man. We just had a nice little plug from NBA Top Shot and Moment Ranks. I want to thank them for allowing us to go on, and got a cool fantasy tool that we just, released about a month or two ago. And it's some good alpha that we share in our Discord. So I encourage people to go check out Stats to Cash. They're kind of under our umbrella, but it's really Daniel Barry's show for that. And so we got a nice plug there, and seeing the followers kind of trickle in. And we like fantasy sports. We like collecting. And if that's what your interest is, then feel free to pop on by.
Pop on by. I love fantasy sports. I love collecting. I didn't realize you were affiliated with Stats to Cash. I've seen them around. I didn't know what their deal is, because there's all these different voices on Twitter, and you look at it and you're like, well, some of these are probably cool and some of these maybe not so much. So I don't know, it's hard to pick my daily content diet of Top Shot. Like, sometimes I care about Team Hold and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I a lot of the time I pop into Shot Talking. Like, those are kind of my dudes. Those are who sort of gave me the idea to start sort of messing around with content. So very cool for you to sort of get that shout out. In a way, you're sort of platforming me here, so I appreciate it. But
no, of course, man. Yeah,
I'm just kind of starting it out. We just started this channel in late December, but we've made some progress, got a lot of Top Shot content, just started making some all day content. So we're moving here, but I just wanted to sort of have this conversation with you and sort of initiate some new users who are interested, deal with some intermediate level stuff and some advanced minutia and big picture stuff for the really invested collectors out there. So I guess the biggest news of the day is the pack drop, right?
Yes.
So for me, when I saw the announcement, I was like, does this really move the needle? It just feels like a lot of the other packs. I was like, first of all, I don't know about you, my account value is down very much. I'm waiting for something to happen here. Like, please, like, I am bleeding and it's not fun. And I'm just waiting for, I wish I understood it. I almost feel like I've forgotten why we're down this bad. But what are your impressions on the pack news? What are your impressions on the odds, the rares, the sets, whatever you saw, and what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, so far I'm still waiting for the pack contents to be released. That's where I'll really have the most knowledge in terms of supply, what's coming in. I have seen the minting that they've done. So a bunch of 60K moments, we're still going to be getting quite a bit of those via the live token bot, which we have in our Discord, and it pumps out basically when these things mint, pumps that into their bot. And so I've seen that, more or less what the big supply is that's coming out. Haven't seen yet, I think, all the rares and some of those other higher level things. But after having just got off of the spaces with Jacob, my first impression was the same as yours. But having heard from him and talk about more or less in this pack drop, they're going to secure the odds to be better this time around. So not as many loser packs. So they're doing some testing ahead of time before, like they've already done quite a bit of testing. So I'm going to lean on the probability here. From my own perspective, I've done really well on these packs. I've hit 4 out of 4 on rares for these elites, like not to brag, but like it's been good, but that doesn't take away from my perspective that overall, I think it's been bad because of what you said, account values. So it's a tough game right now. It's hard to win yourself when everything else is kind of falling. So my perspective is it's in the right direction, but we need it to kind of go in the right direction and on its way up, right? So
I got to remember to unmute myself when I have a thought. And you're done. I missed that spaces. Obviously, I just came home from doing something, but there are always things that they can do. There are always things that we can do. There's always this balance between centralized and decentralized that, you know, people say Web3 is decentralized. That's not really true. You know, it's a mix. You know, some platforms have more of a mix than others. You know, Yuga with Bored Ape, for example, is going to completely hand over the reins, which I think is a beautiful thing. But with this, when you have licensed collectibles that have to be managed in a certain way, the terms have to be agreed to with the NBA, you really have to have sort of a central governing body. And that's how we all look to Dapper to sort of determine these experiences for us. And then when they fall short, you know, it has a disproportionate effect on the experience for everyone. So in a lot of ways, we're all following their lead. We're doing that with packs. I mean, if I go back here real briefly in time, not too far, but if I can find them. Oh, sold out. I guess this would be a previous pack. I mean, this old boy, and it feels like a lifetime ago, but this was great. Like we all were like 33% of the rare. We're like, you know, the elite collector pack, you know, collectors were jumping for joy. We're like, yes, yes, yes. You know, and I kind of killed it because, you know, as some people saw, I got a Tyrese Maxey Hollow, Luka All-Star game, and Gobert All-Star game in 3 trade ticket packs. And then I just stopped. I was like, that's it. That's my day. I was like, you can't beat that, you know? So, but this was so misleading because there's only, I mean, if you're doing the math, there's 20,000 here packs, and then there's 30,000 here, which is like a quarter of what they usually do. It's like, yeah, were you going to mention that? You know, were you just going to sort of operate under the assumption that we were all sort of, you know, okay with it? And it's like, yeah, we're okay with it for now, but you can't keep this up, you know, and you've got they've got a revenue agreement to meet, and they've got to sell a certain number of packs. It's not like they're going to open their books and be like, well, here are the taxes we intend on paying. And like, here's our budget, our operating budget. And here's what we can do. No, I mean, there's certain things they just can't drop the alpha. They can't do it, you know, and I respect that. They're not going to tell us everything. It's just sometimes when they drop info, they're not going to tell you the whole story, and you got to decipher things like this for yourself. This, you know, and so for this new pack, I mean, I guess while you were doing the spaces with Jacob, I was watching the mint reveal video. This one, it's good. It's obviously got some interesting stuff. There's you know, and I really do like some of the base set moments that have been dropping lately. I mean, I'm not anti base set. Like, I honestly think the moments in base set series 3 are getting to be, I think they're better than the moments in series 2, just like the plays themselves. I think we're getting to that point. We've been at that point. But when the predominant supply of base set, and like, you know, well, this is the new elite, but I don't know what the quickly drifting over to standard. When we're talking about this base set series 3, and it's just from the jump, they kind of shot themselves in the foot because 60K just dwarfs everything else. You know, it makes it so hard to get value. Like with series 2, you let me know your thoughts on this. Like with series 2, we had 40K, 35K, 15K, you know, 7,500. You know, with this, it's like, yeah, 60K is technically less than what you get when you add up 40 and 35. But there's no sort of middle ground. And so you can have less supply, but the stores of value, especially with the lack of collector score incentive, makes it really hard to collect this series 3 base set. I think it's not functional. And then when they go back to being like, oh, well, you know, maybe a certain number of collectors aren't buying these packs, that's probably a big reason why.
Yep. And so I think also in addition to those mint sizes, so you did a great comparable between series 2 and between series 3. One thing that's hidden from series 2 is that dynamic supply, right? The weekly flash challenges, which just seem to keep pumping in even more supply. So for me, it's a little bit of a twofold thing as well, where you're not only sort of maintaining the math and, you know, in terms of user growth, maybe they're not being an oversupply of moments in the marketplace. But then you also have these dynamic challenges that people are buying into. The moments are pumping, and the ones that are going into them as requirements go up and then on the way down. And so this kind of pendulum that keeps swinging, it's not even just the 60Ks, it's also like this other dynamic supply that's coming in. So for me, my biggest concern is the recalibration. Is it possible first? Can they go and take that 60 mint down to 40K from series 2, given all this extra dynamic supply, right? Is that in their interest?
To do it in the middle of the series, right?
Right, probably not. So they already had their roadmap, but the possibility, just would like to know if that exists. In series 2, we did see them shorten the supply count around February, I believe, of last year with the throwdown set, and they kind of matched supply with active user base. And at least back then there was that possibility. Now I'm not 100% sure, but my concerns are more or less the same as yours with the oversupply. And we'll see kind of what Top Shot is going to do in real life utility side to bring in that active user base that can help recalibrate the oversupply with the active user base. Because once you do that, then supply is not as much of an issue. But right now you don't just have the 60K, you also got this dynamic supply. So there's a lot going on right now. And I'm not, and plus NFL all day, that didn't exist in series 2. UFC didn't exist in series 2. It's the same active user base for the most part. And they've gone into other NFT projects as well. So it's a lot, but we'll see. I trust that Dapper's already got this kind of minutia of detail with their economists to kind of figure out how to get this active user base back to spending in the marketplace via incentivizing collectors and collecting, because the rent seeking and all that stuff is kind of the other dynamic that we haven't really touched on. But that's really, it's the behavior of the market as well in terms of supply. Yeah, not a lot of people are holding with good reason.
Quick question for you: are you in all day?
I am totally as a rent seeker. I'm a Dolphins fan, so just by virtue of being a Dolphins fan and us never having any good moments besides the Miami Miracle, which really means nothing. I am in NFL all day. I have a few packs that I haven't opened, and I've opened several other ones, but I'm gonna, I think, do the holding pack strategy for NFL all day to see how that kind of shifts my collector strategy.
And are you in Strike?
I am in Strike by name. I think I bought like 1 or 2 packs, but it's that's something that I'm probably going to advise, like have somebody who's really in UFC maybe help advise me on that collector strategy. I might even let somebody else help me manage a portfolio just from an advice standpoint, what's good in the marketplace to buy right now and have a store of value. I think that UFC lends itself in a very unique way that football can't, which is that whole one-on-one dynamic. I think that's why Top Shot works well and also poorly. It's very top heavy. LeBron challenge pops off, everybody wants to do it. Every requirement that's out for it, like it'll just pump and pump and pump. If it's your middle tier guys, not as much, but that kind of one-on-one dynamic, and that kick to the face, very soccer-esque, that goal that happens in the 90th minute, to me, that lends itself to a really cool, aesthetically pleasing project. Now, I'm not sure about these UFC fans and if they're willing to go and adopt the technology behind it, but I think that UFC is very interesting. I just don't know enough about it. So I'm going to need some help with it. Talk to your sharks for me.
Yo, dig this. Chris Middleton Hollow Series 3, 635. What are we doing? Did you see that? Were you like, oh my goodness? I'm just for the value, I'm putting that on my watch list. I'll do stuff like this sometimes. I'll just be on a stream and be like, I gotta buy it.
Very smart. That's what I do as well. I'm tracking the hollows like a hawk. I saw Luke Kennard yesterday, I think fall to, what was it, 575 at one point. So I haven't looked today to see what he is, but that's been on the lower end of hollows, which is crazy to me.
Stupid. It's just stupid. There's so many deals that we think of in the larger scheme in terms of, well, we think of in terms of past value, right? We're assuming there's any kind of growth of any kind, this would be considered a deal. So we know that. Not to be all doom and gloom, though. We don't want to go all, negative, but we know that collectors from Top Shot, we're going to move some of their stuff over to All Day and Strike. I am in All Day. I get it to an extent, Tom Brady's going to be valuable, Kenny Moore, maybe not so much, I've got my very basic
punters. They have like punting moments. They have like these weird,
offense probably more valuable than defense. Maybe
in fantasy, it is like fantasy lends itself to really gearing the market towards skill players. So to me, them having to go and change kind of that dynamic and make punting somehow valuable, whether it's a flash challenge, whether it's fantasy, that's going to be really tough to take this like existing football market, which is really all about the superstars. And then maybe your occasional, like big time, like defensive players, but football culturally speaking, I think is going to be a very tough, just kind of thing to bring into a mass market. So yeah, Lonzo Mourning, also one of the cheaper hollows. Like that drives me crazy. As a Heat fan, of course, it's going to drive me crazy. But yeah, the Lonzo Mourning hollow is one I also track too as a litmus. What's it at? Oh, 985. It's gone up a bit. So for that set, I think it's the lower one.
Yesterday was $7.99.
Mm.
I was like, I bought it at $9.99. I thought I got away with highway robbery. And then I was like, anytime I do that, I'm like, I know I got myself a deal. And then it goes down another $200. I'm like, oh, like I couldn't have waited like 2 days. Like, and this
Alonso at $4 is great, actually. Like that's a good stack if that's something that you think can be recalibrated in the summertime. So summertime is when a lot of these rib activations and run it back activations happen. So
yeah.
Not a bad move to store now and then have it for later.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Definitely in the process of stacking these, I've decided sort of like in the last couple of days, it's a Top Shot debut from a Hall of Famer. People are making me mad by letting this go to $4. I mean, like the whole archive set, like if you've got Dwayne Wade at 30 and Shaq at 70, why is Zoe at 4? But you know this, you're a Heat fan. You know how great Zoe was at his peak. I know he got injured a little bit, but Zoe is Zoe. Show some love, Top Shot.
Came back from a kidney ailment, right? Like this guy is Superman. Came back and helped us win a championship. Backed up Shaquille O'Neal. You know, talking about a Georgetown great, or I'm sorry, I forgot where. Yeah, did he play in Georgetown? I believe it was Georgetown, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about one of like the greatest of like college, and it's amazing to me. We have to assume that at some point, real basketball fans will head to the platform. So that's where I'm more bullish. Hopefully that happens. And yeah, I think Alonzo Mourning's perennially just underrated on this platform. Not enough people know about him apparently. But
yeah, not quite as flashy as Shaq or Duncan, but you know, those who know. That's sort of my collecting. I guess you could say mantra is those who know are going to make the most of the platform, and those who don't are probably going to just chase, you know, whatever challenge there is and go for the short-term gain and not realize with oh, wow. See, Tyrese, probably not okay. I had where was I? I had the first one on this. I got it off for $11.99. I was like, I just need the capital. Even that'll seem kind of low over time. But yeah, so much good stuff. I like to do this. Like I just have a video every once in a while. I call it marketplace review, and I just go down and whatever that this was like the core of my marketplace experience. And I would recommend it for my Top Shot experience. And I would recommend it like before flash challenges, before series 3, before airdrops. My whole thing was go on marketplace, snoop around. Ooh, Austin Reeves is fairly unestablished
for me. I'm sorry. It's just that, yeah, it's not gonna. I wouldn't pay more than like 20. I don't know what kind of player he's gonna be. I don't know. Like he's okay. Right. He's been a decent player on a pretty bad Lakers team. No offense if anybody's a Lakers fan out there. There's actually an interesting row. I think when you were on that Tyrese Maxey row, I want to say all the way to the left, there's a mellow moment for $3 when you were, I think, a little bit more down. And so if I'm not mistaken, that mellow moment is when he hits the top 10 top scoring of all time. So you might have been there at some point when you were in that Tyrese Maxey hollow row. I think it was all the way to the left, if it still maintains the same arrangement there. But that mellow moment, there's a mellow moment out there, very good value, but that's when he hits top 10 scoring of all time. And so to me, like there's a Trae Young, Kobe tribute. I mean, yeah, I believe it's one of these. I don't know which mellow moment it is, but one of them is when he hits the top 10 of scoring. So yeah, look, the bucket, Anthony's 27,314 puts them in the top 10 of scoring of all time. Just crazy to me. $3.
Yeah, I've been secretly hoarding some mellows myself. I've got Run It Back 06 mellow. I've got Archive mellow. I've got a couple of 15Ks, which was not.
I remember when it was 40. This is crazy. Ugh.
Fresh Threads 82. I mean, I had it at. This is just me personally, not financial advice. Everybody knows, not financial advice. I put it in the description of every video I do, just to be abundantly clear. Yeah, I had this at 125. It went up to 169. I got out of it, and now it's at 82. Any common bottleneck is going to be valuable because it's a common set. More people are going to want common sets, and Lonzo Fresh Threads was like 350 like 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. I would have gotten out there unless you're just keeping the set and you're just like, I'm holding it to the end of time. Like Top Shot can just, when I die, Top Shot can just burn my whole account. I don't care. We'll completely ride or die, you know, like, but outside of that, it's like, ooh, Like, this doesn't make a ton of sense. I'll tell you what really doesn't make a sense. And since we're on the topic, these bad boys. I have been holding this set.
Same boat.
Bottleneck 80. Like, what do you think? Am I so off base here? Like, why is KP ahead of? I thought this was going to be like Hustle and Show 2, to be honest with you. I see my comparison at the time when this challenge was live was, where is he? Ja is 259. I was like, it's a fairly similar mint, and it's an awesome moment from Steph, and it's Steph. I was like, this does check out. I was like, yeah, the market's just down. There's no way around it, you know.
And it's the S3 supply count too, as we spoke about before. So in S2, the store of value for it, for the most part, if you want to move a piece, you can more or less move it if you go below ask. And so in S3, it's just such an undercutting game where once you do it, somebody else is doing it too to get more liquid because those markets are more active. Whereas S2, you can put out something for a day, check it back in a few, as long as you're not desperate to move the thing, like you can move your stuff at a pretty reasonable price because a lot of them have had an okay store of value. And so there's also that S1, S2 propping, again, driven by lower supply. So if there's a challenge that says own the Series 1, Series 2 moment, or own the Top Shot debut, those kinds of activations really help prop up those things. But for S3, really the only kind of activation that you have in terms of a pump would be a wild card, like random moment that's chosen. If they say, oh, if they don't have a moment in S1, S2, use their S3 debut. They've done a couple things here and there. They can throw in like a Hustle and Show moment if they want, but really those things seem a little bit more intentional of pumping when they do that. So I think the Top Shot avoids throwing in specific set moments for a lot of these plays. But interestingly enough, we did talk about fresh threads. I think that those fresh threads rewards could definitely see some inclusion in the Halliburton and Harden rewards, which will be highly sought after. So not financial advice, but these moments are pretty low price. So if you did want to go into them on a foreseeable pump, I don't think it's the worst things. I think people will chase Harden's first Sixers moment, Halliburton's first Sixers moment until they get another one, right? What's the plan there? We'll see.
Just on an NBA note, I am honestly I know Harden went like 3 for 17 the other night and has generally been shooting very, very poorly. Yeah. That's a fluke. I'm really excited about this Sixers team. I guess as a Heat fan, you're not as excited about this Sixers team for selfish reasons, but I'm very excited about the Heat, by the way. I mean, your defensive switching potential has always been a playoff problem. You've got Spo. You're always going to be ready come playoff time. Like, there's no tanking in South Beach whatsoever. Like, y'all are always going to be ready. Question is, can you deliver on buckets? You know, to what extent can you run out like a Jimmy Duncan Robinson thing? Like, you know, you got Kyle, you got PJ, you got Bam. You're never going to be like short. It's a deep team. You know, the question is, the Celtics are surging. The Sixers have this new unit. The East is always like, it's anybody's guess. But I'm excited about, you know, just in general, I would have to think, well, we just saw this, but I would have to think the real top choices would be Sixers, Heat, Bucks. Celtics, I'm always going to be a little squeamish on because I just feel like they've got two wings who use the ball a lot, have a high usage percentage, and don't necessarily pass. Their function isn't to pass. They're not particularly high efficiency 3-point shooters. I just feel like as constructed, it's not always going to be the best bet. I feel like Sixers have more defined roles, Bucks have more defined roles. Heat just have this wall, this Stan Van Gundy-esque wall of
You're bringing it back, man. I love it. I love the Stan Van Gundy shout out. But yeah, man, 76ers are certainly, out of all the teams in the NBA, or all the teams in the East for us, definitely the team that I think would wreck our, postseason hopes. There's a fair question out there. I asked it on my stream. I'll ask you, who's the 76ers third best player? Is it Tobias Harris or is it Tyrese Maxey? And especially come playoff time.
I think it really depends on what you need. The answer honestly could be Tyboo. It's not necessarily about who has the most ball in a game. It's, if you're talking about playoff time, the last 3 minutes of a game 3, maybe Matisse Tyboo is your third best player because you need him to be the defensive anchor. Like, you need him to be. It never really made sense to me to have Simmons and Tyboo on the floor at the same time, and now you don't have the Simmons problem. So Sometimes the answer is Matisse. Sometimes the answer is Tobias. Sometimes the answer is Maxey. Sometimes the answer is Danny Green, because if you really think about it, I know everybody was like, oh, that Lakers shot. Danny Green's been on 3 of the last like 7 championship teams. Danny Green is someone you want on your team. Raptors, Lakers, Spurs. Like,
Yeah,
at
he's got
some
a
point, you
pedigree.
got to give it up to the
Watch him
fact
kill
that
my
Danny
Heat.
Green is an elite role player.
He's been doing it on every team. I'll never forget him. I was at the stadium against the Spurs when they beat us in our final championship run with the big 3, and he was just unstoppable. I'm watching from like the rafters on one side. I'm just seeing him hit 3 after 3 after 3, just a machine. And on defense too, the amount of just he's such an underrated. Just 1 block a game, 1 steal a game, gives you 3 threes. Just your average or your prototype 3-and-D players. So can't say enough good things about him. I think interestingly enough, yeah, you hit on the fact that the Sixers have a lot of pieces. I think one of the best things about Tyrese Maxey's emergence is the fact that Tobias, at least as an offensive option, so maybe him that as who third best offensive option. I think the fact that Maxey can step into that role, his 3-point percentage has been through the roof. I think at like beginning this month, he was like at like 60% at some point. But Tobias Harris, now that you don't have to maybe depend on him as much to be that third scorer as a fourth option, very interested to see in the playoffs how he does. And they can always flip him down the road too for something maybe better in terms of cap space opportunities. So I think the Sixers have a lot to look forward to in the playoffs, but also beyond next season as well. And as a Heat fan, I'm scared. At the same time, Harden lends himself to a lot of switching that they have to do. There's a funny play that I posted on my Twitter out there where basically when you have Harden on your floor, he is not the type of guy to go over screens. He wants to switch. Everybody's switching. So I forget what team it was against. It was a previous team that they had, and I just watched the game too. But everybody switches, basically leaves. Who was it? Oh, of course, it was against the Nuggets. This was last night. Bones Highland leaving them wide open on the 3-point line. And it's just, yeah, all that switching, especially during come playoff time, you got to be able to do different things on defense. So you're right about Thibault. At the same time, Thibault's not going to be enough if everybody's switching. All the Heat will do at that point is do a nice little dribble handoff over to Duncan Robinson, set a screen with Bam. And if somebody's switching on that, it's going to be too late. That ball's going to leave Duncan Robinson's hand and go into the 3 basket. So at that point, it's just by play design. But we'll see. They got a lot of talent on that team. And so we'll see if what Doc can do with it, right?
Or they go uber small and just try and shoot the Sixers out of the building, which, you know.
Embiid wrecks us though, so they probably want to stay big. But Embiid definitely wrecks us. He's a Heat killer. Great matchups there.
You know who was the Heat? See, this is the sort of thing you had Giannis's number for years, basically up until this last playoff series. People don't remember that. I looked at that first round series because you swept the Bucks the previous year, did you not?
In 5. It was in 5, but still, yeah, it was
5. He could not perform. Spo, whatever he was doing. I do want to sort of pivot because I feel like I want to use the rest of our time to actually stay on top.
Yeah, of course. No, it's all good.
No. This is why we're here. It's about the hoops. It's about the game. Like if you're not here for that, you know, that's
I could chop it up with you like this. I mean, you got a nice real fan base over here. I'm very interested to see how. I'm going to be watching your content, so I love the fact that you know hoops. I can tell that already.
Hey, I appreciate that, obviously, and I'm going to be spending more time on your content too. I'd love to stop by Spaces or two and just sort of more flesh out everything else you've got going on.
Yeah, for sure, man. Pop on the show. We'll talk hoops for 2 hours. That's what we're here for. But yeah, we'll get back to the Top Shot. Bring it on. Yeah.
Did you take part in any of these challenges? Did you have any thoughts on whatever challenges you did or didn't complete?
Man, so I actually posted this on Twitter the other day, but I actually met Hassan Whiteside in person. I actually have a jersey signed by him. So of course, me thinking that this $100 million player is going to change my Heat franchise's destiny, and didn't quite happen. And along the fact that this guy was the only moment that I needed to complete that Scotty Barnes, which is the only moment that nobody undercut for. It's crazy. 250 people did that challenge. That thing is selling for 1,500 just consistently from the past day or so. Wild. So I have a new just kind of hatred for Hassan Whiteside now. And I still have his signed jersey. I don't know what I'm going to do with that.
As if you didn't have enough before. Yeah. I'm just waiting on this CJ. As you saw, I literally moved over on my packs page. I was like, maybe we could just rip one right now, but it's not in yet. So just let's finish off in this range structurally with the Top Shot ecosystem, the infrastructure with Dapper. What do you hope to see going forward? What are you looking forward to? What do you think is the most important subset of area for Dapper to focus on.
We need people like us. We need actual basketball fans on the platform. These weird things. When I bring a new friend into Top Shot, they'll look at the same things that you do. They'll be like, Alonzo Mourning, $4? What the heck? Those kinds of questions that you have, how can you go and spend like $2,000 on something when you have all this miscalibration on the platform itself? So I think in real life, activation needs to happen. We're about a month away from playoffs. We need to have Top Shot in those stadiums. They need to have collectors in those stadiums. They need to have us spreading the word of Top Shot, opening packs, doing X, Y, and Z. We need people on the platform who are going to the games, and we're going to assume that they're basketball fans, or else why would you waste the money and the time to go over there unless you're getting comped by your company or something? But hey, you know what? They got money too. Just we need basketball fans on the platform. We need people like me and you chopping it up and people actually feeding into that basketball knowledge, walking through the marketplace, having a good time, some discussions about Heat and 76ers. Once Top Shot figures out how to do that stuff, which today they started doing moment ranks fantasy, that's the kind of activation that you need. We don't need these rent seekers anymore. These market participants are undercutting one another. It's just not fun when you have people that are 100% financially driven. And it's cool. You can be zero. Nobody on this platform is 0% financially driven, but we need that hybrid user base. That's what I call it. Hybrid user base. Basketball fan, financially motivated. I want to use my basketball knowledge to be able to stack some players up that down the road are going to pay off in some way, shape, or form based on the games that Top Shot are creating. So for me, in real life user activation to bring on real basketball fans, that can kill all this supply because it's billions of them all around the world. It's different than NFL. NFL is just the United States based. We're talking about a sport that encompasses, Canada. We're talking about Dirk Nowitzki from Germany. We're talking about Giannis from Greece, Hakeem Olajuwon from Africa. I mean, it's such a global sport with billions of people out there. Top Shot, your duty is to bring us some activated fans and use us if you want. So that's my speech. In real life user activation, bringing on more basketball fans. It's how you sell this stuff.
You see, that's what we're all about with the Top Shot Shark sort of, I guess you could call it mechanism. It's a three-pronged mechanism that involves a flipping contest, which I invented and I believe have the first ever of on Twitter. There's this general sort of Twitter polls and sort of set sentiment that I like to collect. And then there's also the YouTube channel. And our mantra is make your own Top Shot destiny, because so much is left up to the packs. So much is left up to the market. So much is left up to Dapper. We tend to focus on the more decentralized aspect of things. And we're doing some interesting stuff over on Twitter. Like, for example, this week, we're giving away a Nikola Vucevic rare. We've already in the midst of it. For those of you who know that, and those of you who don't, the entry deadline has already passed. But we've been doing a week-long NBA trivia contest that started on Monday. I've been throwing out some really hard questions because I'm like, Top Shot fans need to know. I'm like, these are the people where I can do this, and I can present them with something that they're going to really honestly want. And it's been fun, I've been throwing out some really hard questions. Like, you may know this, but like, who was the first person to ever get a quadruple double in the league? The answer is Nate Thurman. Nate the Great.
Great. Okay.
So it's fun stuff like that where people are tripping over each other to try to get a rare. So that's cool. Quickly, what's your username?
So my username is dreamshake_r.
That makes sense. Also,
and
Twitter handle, in case anybody didn't know that, but I'm sure most of my followers do. Well,
and guess what? I'm actually going to be throwing notifications on Top Shot Shark. I don't know how I wasn't following you before, but we'll also follow you on Boards to Buckets. I'll make sure to create a nice little pipeline here because your goals are the same as ours. And so let's definitely work together. I love the gamification. If you're doing that on Twitter, we're going to create a nice pipeline of fans to come in there and chop it up with you guys. So let's do it.
Or the movie. Oh, you're NLL, huh? Oh. NLL. I wanted to. It's funny. I was around for Cool Cats Master Challenge, and I was like, oh, I can't really afford this at the time. And then I waited. I saw what NLL was going to be, and I looked at LaMelo. I was like, now I really can't afford this. I would have been better off.
He's back down.
You mind if I just check out your moments real
quick?
Of
course, man. Take a look and see. You can see what I bought lately. I loaned a friend my Chris Paul, so that's why that's in there. I bought the BAM off the MP, a nice little 3-4-5 cereal. Just maybe a couple of bucks off a low ask, like $2. Finished the Fresh Threads. loaned out some Timberwolves moments to the community. We do that a lot with Boards to Buckets. We all kind of help each other out with challenges. I'm a full team set holder for Timberwolves, so I tend to have a lot of Timberwolves moments that whenever they're needed. D'Angelo Russell's popped off a couple times this year. And really the stuff that, that's odd.
It is
The stuff that I've been the
whatever.
stuff that I've been buying lately are more Heat moments. I've been buying a bunch of rares, S1s. That's been my main thing. And yeah, my watch list. I've been putting quite a bit on there as well.
You notice the sorting mechanism's gone. I tend to
Yeah,
think
I saw that too. That was weird. Today I saw that.
that's the genesis of. I tend to think, hope at least, that that's the genesis of something along the lines of an update. But as always, we shall
Right.
see. Oh,
Right,
I thought about this. Oh, 80? Really?
Mhm.
Shit depresses me. Really just depresses me. I have an S1 rookie that dunk over Montrezl Harrell. Can we? Yeah.
Of course,
You,
man. Yeah,
yeah, you've seen
I
it,
love
I'm
this.
sure.
This
Oh
is a
my
really
goodness.
awesome moment.
Let's just watch it because yeah.
Dude, this is such a good one.
Oh my goodness. 40. Oh my goodness, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Woo! Oh, he whomps it on Trez. Oh, I love it. I can just yeah. Ooh, the reach makes it great. Just the force. We need guys like this in the dunk contest. What the heck was that dunk contest, man? Like
Oh my God, yeah.
MPJ, like oh, I thought Obi or Jalen was gonna clean up. As it turned out, we started this Top Shot promotion, the moment of the night, on the night of the worst dunk contest in the history of the dunkers.
And with GRG and Kevin Durant, it's sometimes bad timing, it's sometimes poor planning. For both of those, it happened on both. They decided not to test out the randomizer, do a new randomizer with KD GRG, and then they decide to, okay, how about all these new collectors or anybody who completed this Jalen Green challenge or this, it was some other challenge that Jalen Green was the reward, and then let's dump 80K of supply, or even at least have the possibility that 80K supply of Jalen Green could get dumped on and kill that challenge reward with $100. Like that's just poor planning at that point. And so, Top Shot, Dapper, trust them. Stuff like that worries me sometimes.
I'm not going to say it's incompetence. I'm just going to say maybe their eyes are bigger than their stomach with certain things. Like they get ahead of themselves. I don't always know. Like I find myself asking too many times, like, didn't you know that was going to happen? Like, I don't totally get it. Like, but they've got to strike this balance between having enough packs, having too many packs, having a supply of rare and legendaries, gating them, but not making them too inaccessible. I waited 6 months before I ever got a rare pack. I was fine with it. I was like, I understand the luck of the draw, but there is a place, I think, for blended packs. We shall see with a lot of that. Anyway, I think we could really do a part 2. I feel like we're still scratching the surface. There's so much we could talk about, but for now, I think that's our time. Dream, it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, same, man. Great getting to meet you, and I can't wait to see. I know you're going to pop off because you're the future of what this platform needs. I know you've been around for a while, but I can't say enough. And I'm sure your Sharks, if you're creating this content for them, and they're made of the same DNA, the same blood that we have. Ball is life, baby.
Ball is life. Ball don't lie. Both teams played hard. So thanks for tuning in, and I'm going to let these kind folks go. But stay tuned for all the developments on my end. Stay tuned for all the developments on Boards to Buckets. And yeah, that's all. Take care, folks.